of the people. It's these same people that will come out and vote for you. That's why you have to be very intentional about the lives and properties of these people. People need to be in a good shape, a good state, to come out and vote. If people lose their family members, how do you expect such people to come out and vote? And that's why we have to be very, even this Oyo State, this current attack, we have to make sure that we get those people out on time, because some have even died in that process, and it's nothing to write home about, basically.
Well, let's get into it this morning. Good morning, Yemi.
Good morning, Hannah. Hold on.
Hey, now, I'm personally excited today for many reasons. But some people will understand why I'm this excited, and it's about something that's not happened in 22 years. Anyway, it's one of the, if you check everywhere across the news platform, Twitter, everywhere, it's trending that 22 years after Arsenal became the champions of England. That's particularly the Premier League champions. Meanwhile, that's just one story on the one hand. But now we move on to the conversation of the day. And it's something quite interesting to see that residents trying to cross over water after Moto Bridge collapsed in Ilorin, Kwara State. If you see the video, not very well. I mean, there's no way to say this is sensible. I'm not seeing logic in it, how people had to put their lives on the line just to cross. And a lot of questions are coming from different angles to say, so where are your leaders? Where are the constituency representatives for that region? What are they doing? And that's one. Has this been lodged to the authorities? Do they know about this? Because why should people, because if you see the torrent of water, I'm not sure if you fall, you'll be able to, breathe 5 minutes inside that, because the torrent was quite heavy, and you could see a lot of persons trying to do a lot of things. Now, some people have also made, they've made fun of this issue to say there's a particular person, the person must have crossed from Libya before, because the way the person was handling the bridge, the collapsed bridge, was something to write home about. But all of these conversations are, some maybe just a reflection of what it is in the political space, particularly in governance in the country. Because if we have to say that we have leaders in communities, we have representatives who should look to how well the communities managed, or perhaps infrastructures like bridges, I'm not sure we should have this conversation. That's one. On the other hand, if we have to really table this matter and probably intrinsically, or should we say empirically, check it out, one thing we will discover is we need to question some people. Who are the people? One, who did the project? So how many years did the person give? Because for every major project you do, you give like a warranty kind of thing to say, this based on what we have done and what we have tested it to perform or to withstand, this should take nothing less than 10 years or 100 years or 50 years, whichever the case is. And that should inform that after 50 years, the next thing to do is proper maintenance, sometimes maybe reconstruction, if so to say. We understand that, yes, there's a routine maintenance, which we should come almost every now and then, but there's also that major maintenance after that expiration that's been given by the construction company that built the bridge. So that's also on the table of conversation to say, yes, the people, the contractors that did this, how many years did they give as the warranty for this thing? How long did they say it will last? So if they are culpable in that sense, then we can hold them by their word, because you gave us your word to say Nigerians can apply this bridge for as long as this moment we have put on the review is still in place. So that's a conversation. Questions to be asked. Whoever gave the project out, whoever disbursed the fund, whoever got the money, whoever did the project, the contractor, everybody. Like they say, like police will carry everybody. They should really carry people in this kind of situation, because at this age and time, this is unacceptable. We understand that certain instances can happen due to natural occurrences. We don't have power and control over those ones. But the major ones of maybe bridge collapsing just all of a sudden because there's a rainfall somewhere or the other, I'm not sure this should be something we should just look and just overlook and say, okay, it's normal, it's natural. It's not natural in this sense. Whoever did the project should be accountable. We need answers. Questions are being put on the table for people that should really do the work. So if you have done a bad job, then it's time for you to now come and respond to Nigerians to say how this happened, and maybe going forward, what you intend to do for the people.
Exactly, and of course, just like I mentioned, when I saw the video yesterday, I saw that people were actually risking their lives to actually cross over, and then you wonder the measures put in place by the state government, for issues like this, and then what is being done, to restore the fallen bridge. Because at the end of the day, if people have to risk their life like that, I remember there was a time in this Ibadan when a bridge around Akwete, the bridge had issues, and then rain fell on one particular day, and then a lot of people died. They lost their lives because why? Some persons could not wait, for the river to actually, be calmer. They couldn't wait for things to be in a better shape. They just wanted to cross over, and then they led to the death of so many persons. So it speaks to the fact that if you look at these governors, most of them, they are done with their second term. Some are even looking for another term. They are more concerned about 2027. They are more concerned about the campaign. They are more concerned about the candidates they want to anoint. They are more concerned about primaries, and then they forget that these people that you fail to cater for are the ones that are supposed to come and vote. So it's really sad, because at the end of the day, it should be a symbiotic relationship between the leaders and the people. If people are supposed to vote for you and put you in power, you should be able to protect their lives and properties. So then, if you fail that aspect of social contract, because according to John Locke, there should be a social contract. The people should vote for you, and in turn, when they vote for you, you should be able to cater for them. You should be able to protect their lives and properties. So if the people do their own aspect of the bid and you are unable to fulfill that, it's really sad. Look at what is happening in your state. Look at what is happening in other states. So that bridge, I thought it was, at first I thought it was AI. I never thought it was real, because so many persons were even shocked to say that people, I don't know, I'm very sure there are some people who will not cross that bridge because their heart cannot take it, because they are so scared whether they are going to make it or not. I mean, the way it's even standing is not standing really well. So is that the best that the state government can come up with? Or maybe they are working on something better to ensure that people can actually cross over? I believe that, for every year, for every state, there's a budget for things like this. So what is going on, with the budget? Is it that they are not getting, enough? But then I want to believe that the president at the time said, hold your governors accountable. I mean, they are collecting more allocation than ever before. Some are collecting over 100% increase, some over 50% increase. So, I mean, you have more than enough to cater for things like this. If at all, you say insecurity is beyond your power, you are doing all you could. But what about this that can actually, lead to people getting injured or losing their lives? Because it is very risky. And then if some persons cannot even cross that, I'm very sure of that. Those who decided to cross are probably people who don't have any other choice, because they know they have to cross over. So I think the government should actually do better and provide a better solution, because at the end of the day, I think your first duty, as a governor, is to ensure that the lives of people. Look at that bridge now. Look at what people were trying to do to actually cross over. I mean, it's nothing to write home about. Look at the water very close to it. I'm not sure that thing is strong enough. And then those people, I give kudos to them, the fact that they were able to still, jump on it to even try to cross. I bet it with you, a lot of person. I'm not even seeing youths on that thing. The people I can see now, the majority of them are maybe probably people who are a little bit elderly, maybe in their late 40s or so. I'm not sure I can see one or two youths there. So it's not even about the youth or the elderly ones. It speaks to the fact that this is too risky for anybody. Imagine, at night when people, maybe when people are sleeping in their homes, what could happen to this thing? And then people will not even know. They come back in the morning and say, okay, since people crossed over yesterday, let's also try if we'll be able to cross over. I think the government should do something fast about the bridge, and then to ensure that they get, people, because at the end of the day, why is the bridge, collapsing? Because maybe it could be due to maybe excessive rainfall, maybe because we are in the period of rainfall. It could be due to the fact that maybe they need to actually get people who are very competent to handle the bridge this time around. Because I remember that Akwete bridge, they had to work on it severally before it became really stable. The bridge collapsed several times, I remember. Around that 2012, 2014, it was a terrible situation. As a matter of fact, some persons had to pack out of their house, around Akwete, to just move to other areas, because they felt, it's better they safeguard their lives first before their house. It's not a problem for them. So people had to rent apartment outside of Akwete because they cannot afford to cross over, basically.
There's something called early warning systems, right? Even in, I mean, this is everywhere. This is something, it's a no-brainer. It's a common knowledge to everybody to understand that there's something called early warning systems, early detection systems. And these are in place because you understand that, yes, occurrences, natural occurrences can happen. You can have instances where all of a sudden the rains, maybe there's a torrential rainfall that wouldn't stop for a long time, and then it starts. But what about early warning system, especially to tell the people this is going to happen? If you look at countries where they have hurricanes, we have tornadoes, and all of those natural events, they have built structures in place to tell them, so there's an alert for every 1 hour or a few minutes to that incident. There's an alarm that will go off in the whole community to say, so everybody already knows. So they've said it in the news that there's a chance for hurricane, this to happen, tornado, this to happen, because there are warning systems in place. And I think this is the way a sane society should run. To say, yes, we don't have everything under control. We are not gods in that sense, but the little we can have under our control are systems to guide us, structures to help us to see when these kind of issues happen, how do we manage it? Now, that's one. On the other hand, there's a bit of orientation or education that should also go out to the people. We've seen cases where a tanker falls and people are trying to scoop fuel. We've seen it in Nigeria, and sometimes you ask people, say it's hunger. At the end of the day, your life is more important than that money you want to make at that instance, because you understand anything can happen from that. Oh, I'm so thank God nothing happened from that in a bad way. What if somebody of a few persons, or even everybody? Because I was even asking the question, why we did that plenty on that a dilapidated structure? Now, if it were just about maybe one person, two persons, you can still say maybe the strength of that thing will be able to hold. But if you have a lot of people, you'd almost like a gridlock trying to cross at the same time, there is more weight on that material. So it can even fail much further, and everybody will get tumbled into the water. And I think these are the things we should know as humans. As much as you have a place to go, as much as you know you want to go to work, you want to do something that early, it is also important to put into consideration your life, because without your life, I'm not seeing any possibility of you getting any of those things done anyway. So it's very important that we understand survival first, safety first, and every other thing follows. And again, I just would like to allude to one of the points you've made, and I think it's also interesting for us to see that every failure in society is a reflection of governance. And I think this is so true, because this is just a failure. And unfortunately, this is not peculiar to Nigeria. There's a particular place, I watched a documentary in DR Congo, where students have to travel. Nah, I wouldn't call it go to school. They have to travel to school for like about 3 hours on the road, and there's a particular bridge they cross. That bridge is just as this. So there's something they tie. The villagers have tied something, so the students will now be paddling it. Then you need to see the water, so they need to paddle every morning. That's what they do to get to school. Sometimes they don't get to school because maybe the torrent is too high, so everybody's afraid and they go back home. So what do you say to that? And this, I'm seeing this across Africa. Many African states, we have this as a culture that we can always survive. And I think that's one of the things our leaders would always ride on, to say, well, they will complain for a while, but they can still always adapt. And that's the problem, because we've been adapting for so long. The standards have dropped. They have reduced us to mere people who just go with anything and will be okay. We'll just talk on social media and everything goes down the drain when another topic comes up. And that's the situation in the country. But you know, my plea now is to people in authority, government, local government leaders. We need you to do what you should do. We understand the autonomy, local government autonomy thing still being something to discuss, but much more so, can we first look at the most important commodity, or how should I say, resources in a country? Because it is not the natural resources, it is not the fuel in Nigeria, it is the people in Nigeria. That is the asset we have. That's the most valuable asset we can boast of in the country. We have about close to 250 million of that, and we are not making the best of it. In fact, we don't even care if they die or if they leave, because we've seen instances where, you know, just recently in Oyo State, we saw the abduction situation. Students that are supposed to be future leaders were taken weeks away in the bush, and a lot of teachers as well. And you ask the question, really, where are we going? Because I know for one that we've seen documentaries and we've read in the news where the United States particularly would need to send everything they have just to get one member of their armed forces back into their country, one member of their community. They've come to countries and they've expatriated some of their members. They've taken them from the whims of shackles and the shackles of terrorists, or should we say terrorists. And we've seen the case even in Nigeria. They come and then they take their people away just because they believe in the one single life that is an American. So an American life matters to the government so much so that they don't mind spending everything they have on just one civilian from their country. And I think this is the way to go to. If we start thinking of people as assets, as something very important, as people that could make a change in the country, then I think we should deploy everything we have in terms of resources, in terms of strength, in terms of power, in terms of support to the people. Because at the end of the day, the people are the ones that would be at the receiving end of this. They are the ones you are leading, but much more so when they trust you with their votes. Why not just try to do everything that that you can do to ensure that they still alive, they stay alive, they don't die just by crossing the bridge. You see, it's very unfortunate. I mean, this is Kwara State, for example, and you want to say this is just because there's a camera. What about places where you don't get to see the views of this? You see people risking lives, and you want to say there's a local government chairman in this place. So you want to say there are leaders in this place, and I don't know if they watch these videos. If you want, this is an old trailer, and you want to say this is how many feet high? Over 9 feet, 10 feet high. It's being submerged in the water. And I'm not even just saying this is the government's problem alone. I'm saying this is plus the government, plus the people. Because how do you intend to drive across this kind of water using that big vehicle? And you know, sometimes I say people want to survive, but much more so, why can't you just think about safety first, even while you survive? Because it's important at the end of the day, if you do everything you do, what matters is, are you still breathing? The moment you lose it, my dear, that's the end of it. And Nigeria has happened to you, unfortunately.
Look at those cars and those stocks and that water. It's really sad. Honestly, even if you can take a look at the other video, you see that it's quite synonymous with this because people are obviously stranded. And from the reports that we got, this is not the first time that this bridge will collapse. But then the government has tried to repair. That's why I said that if at all repairing this bridge is not working, why not just start all over? You know, why not just start all over? Because that's the same issue that we are having with the national grid. Some persons are coming out to say, oh, that grid has been in existence for decades and then we need to do something about it. So this bridge that keeps collapsing, just like the national grid, see, at the end of the day, whatever is happening in the state is a reflection of the problems that the people in the entire country are facing. Because if you look at this problem, it's not just about Ilorin alone. There are other states who are also going through the same thing. I mentioned that Akwete Bridge too. It was like that. They were repairing it and then it was not working until they decided to just pull down everything and then start all over. Maybe that would be the best thing to do for this particular bridge. Yes, it will cost a lot of money, but then I want to believe that there's money in the coffers of the government. If at all there's no money, you can just seek help from the federal government, because I want to believe this video would have got into the presidency and then they want to ask questions to say what is actually going on. Why is this bridge in this particular state? Because we need to be very careful of this. If care is not taken, look at those cars stuck there. What's the chance that they'll be able to get those cars out maybe today or maybe tomorrow? It would have damaged a lot of things because people are stranded, they cannot travel, the workers cannot go out, except people who can risk their lives on that dangling bridge. And then who says that that bridge will stand? People can still cross over it today with the state of the bridge yesterday. You mentioned the number of persons who are applying through. It's already weak, as it is now. And then, just like I said, I give kudos to them because a lot of persons cannot even do it. They would rather sit down at home and say, okay, it doesn't matter. Whenever the bridge is back to normal, we will step out of our house. So basically, I think they need to do something about it. If repair is not going to work anymore, let's just pull down everything and then start all over, for the sake of the people. Because, Nigerians have been through a lot in the last few months. Look at the attack there and there. Even Kwara. That same state, Kwara is going through a lot. I know the governor is doing his best, trying to annoy the candidates that will come up after him, but then that's also good. But the people, at the end of the day, the so-called anointed candidates that you want to actually tell people to vote for, if people are not, how sure are you that majority of people in this area will come out to vote? And that's how we build political party. I'm not trying to excuse people who sit at home on election day, but then at the end of the day, there's a way you encourage people to come out and vote. All we do on this table, all the time is to say, when you don't come out to vote, you have no right whatsoever, to complain about whosoever wins the election. Because at the end of the day, it will be for your own benefit. And don't say, my vote, one vote, it doesn't count. No, it does count. Whether one vote or two vote, please come out vote. So the governor should try his best to placate the people after this whole incident, to look for ways, to actually build this bridge, from the scratch and enable people just, go through it, without stress or without fear. Because at the end of the day, if you are so concerned about governance and you neglect the lives of the people, it's the same people that will come out and vote for you. That's why you have to be very intentional about the lives and properties of these people. People need to be in a good shape, a good state, to come out and vote. If people lose their family members, how do you expect such people to come out and vote? And that's why we have to be very, even this Oyo State, this current attack, we have to make sure that we get those people out on time, because some have even died in that process, and there's nothing to write home about, basically.
Well, lastly, I guess I'm just going to pitch my tent the way you pitch yours, to say this is also going out to people in authority, government, especially as they think about the election, because much more so, I think sometimes what they are more concerned about is politics and not governance. Because if they really put in the amount of time they put into politics, into governance, I'm sure Nigeria will have become better for it. But unfortunately, the situation has been, I want a candidate to be anointed by me, I want to flag off my party, I want to do this, I want to get nomination to go for the House of Reps or the Senate, whichever, and they are more interested in all of that. Everybody's possessed with ambition to do something, to become something. What about the ambition to save the lives of people? What about the ambition to save the property of the people that you are? Because that's one of the core essentials that you should do as a leader. So we understand this to be a thing, but we are also saying to everybody involved, let's do the right thing. I mean, it's not hard. It's not too difficult. It's not hard math. It's not for the mathematics. I mean, it's something just as easy as trying to do everything you can to understand that, yes, the rains are here. And I don't want to sound like a prophet of doom, but I'm sorry, we might still have another occurrence in the course of time. Why? The rains are here. And we understand this. And this is not the first time Nigeria will experience rain. We've had a torrential rainfall. Remember, 1980, there was a situation in Ibadan, the Kwara flooding. It was a big one. In fact, the then head of state, I think it was Shehu Shagari at the time, came to Ibadan and said, this is a national disaster. He didn't call it natural. He called it national, because you have to remind, a lot of people lost their lives. I wasn't born in 1980, but from history, and I did a bit of study on that, and I discovered a lot of people died, a lot of goods and services had to be destroyed, and you want to ask, where will they get this? So yeah, there will be a lot of money that will being shared to people, owners of places to say to, but it would never be the same. Like they say in Yoruba, the scar point will never be like the normal flesh. It will still show, it will still reflect, and this is what we say. Instead of just wasting, you know how much, if that lorry that was submerged in that water was carrying something like a produce, like agricultural produce that can spoil, do you know that's a lot of money that's been wasted? And you want to imagine all of that too. And you want food to move across the borders from Kwara to Oyo and to many other places. How can this happen when our roads are not good? How can we get food security when we don't even have farmers who are confident that they can transport their produce from one point to another point? So how do we ensure food production? How do we ensure food security in the country without good roads, without amenities? And these are the things here. These are points, and these are issues that we should look into. Really.
Right. And I also think the government should be proactive next time, because the rain will get heavier even as we progress. This is still May. I mean, you get to September when it should be heavy rainfall, downpour, and things like that. The government should find a way to actually provide for situations like that, and basically hire competent hands for this, particular situation. I mean, yes, we want to try to manage money, but then hire competent people who can do this once and for all. Basically, I think it's a 5 point to leave that discussion this morning. It's time to turn to weather report.